Hello, YouTube. Today on the Naughty Librarian, we have a very special edition of Drunk Classics, and it's just for the holidays because today I am going to do A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. I'm excited. It's got ghosts, it's got jokes. I don't think people realize that, A Christmas Carol is actually really funny. A lot of the humor in it kind of feels like Charles Dickens by way of Jerry Seinfeld. A lot of the jokes in there are kind of observational humor. Let's get into this bad boy. It is very short. It's 120 pages max. So I'm gonna drink this, read, and then we'll stop back in with you. And hopefully this will be a fun, messy time for us all. Well, hello, I'm back. This is glass number 2, having a good time. I just kind of read the opening chapter, which kind of describes the whole thing that's going on. There's Scrooge, right? He's our main character. And long story short, he's a cold-blooded lizard person. No one likes this guy. It's if Debbie Downer was a rich old man. That is Scrooge. Just the worst. And then, if you want to top it off, he's also an accountant. And even at his accounting firm, he's just being a cheap old bastard. It's December 24th. It is Christmas Eve. It is fucking cold in London, everybody. It's snowing and shit. And he's no coal for you. You can't have a fire to work by. You just freeze. So they're just indoor camping right now. A few people are still trying to be nice to Scrooge anyway. His nephew stops by and he's giving mad golden retriever energy, and he's hey uncle, why don't you come to Christmas dinner? So he's trying to connect with his uncle. He's doing a good job, but Scrooge will have none of this. He is all right, Debbie Downer, activate, let's go, because Scrooge hates Christmas. And I want to just quote this because I marked it down in here, and he says, in reference to people who enjoy Christmas, they should get boiled in their own pudding and buried with a stake of holly in their heart. That's elaborate, sir. That is a lot. You want to boil and stake people? They're not vampires. They just like Christmas. But the nephew, he's used to this behavior. He's so, it's Christmas, okay? I don't care. Christmas is, quote, frivolous. It's a fun time and people are nice to each other. Not everything is about money, you fucking lizard person. However, I still want you to come to my house because you're still my uncle, lizard person or not. Do you want to come? And Scrooge doesn't really have a response to this because, he did his worst and his nephew's still hey, do you want to play? So he's good day, sir. And that's all he can say to him. He just keeps saying good day, sir, until his, nephew leaves. So we've established Scrooge hates Christmas, right? You know what Scrooge hates more than Christmas? Poor people. This guy comes by the office and he's, taking donations for, a charity that helps, the unfortunate. And it's Christmas, so people are giving to it, and Scrooge is no, poor people, there's prisons, there's workhouses, or they can just go die if they want. Poor people aren't my problem. Every stance this guy has is so extreme. Reading this in today's climate in America, it hits something different, I'll tell you what. It makes a lot of sense about a lot of people we are currently living with in this world. But since Scrooge can't get any worse for today, it's time to close up shop. And Scrooge, he still reluctantly lets his clerk have the day off tomorrow because it's Christmas. So Scrooge goes home, and Scrooge, he lives in this house that used to belong to his former business partner, Jacob Marley. And Jacob Marley is super dead. Just to be clear, because Charles Dickens says it so many times in here. It's I want you to know he's dead, because if you don't know that, nothing else will make sense in this whole fucking book. He says it over and over again. Jacob Marley, super dead. And so when Scrooge gets home, things start getting weird because he looks at the door knocker on his door. He's seen this every day for however many years. And he looks at it and then boom, it turns into Jacob Marley's face. And he's oh my God, what? Nope, I am not the kind of guy to gets scared of this stuff, so I'm just gonna shake it off. Except for the fact he goes inside of his house, which is large and empty, so it just like echoes oddly. It's dark, it's cold. It's just like, oh my gosh, this house is begging to be haunted, you know? And he's like, okay, normally this wouldn't bother me either, but like with the door face, I'm getting a little weirded out, so I'm just gonna go straight to bed. So goes upstairs, locks himself in his bedroom, and he's like, all right, I'm gonna eat some gruel, and then I'm gonna go to bed. But as he's eating his gruel, like all of a sudden, every bell in his house, like any possible bell, starts ringing simultaneously. And like he hears the cellar door just like burst open, and then he hears like chains getting dragged along the ground, and Scrooge is like, oh no. He is freaking out. He's like, do I have food poisoning? Am I hallucinating? What is happening right now? And then boom, in through the closed door, guess who floats in? Jacob Marley's ghost. And he's just like covered in chains, and the chains have like cash boxes and like ledgers on it, just like accountant stuff, chaining him up. And again, Scrooge doesn't want to believe this is happening. It's more likely hallucination. And he's like, nope, Marley, you're dead. You're not here. And Marley's like, oh, I'm not here. Do you want to see some ghosty stuff? And he does like scary ghosty stuff, like Beetlejuice stuff. And then Scrooge is like, all right, fine. I fucking believe you're a ghost. Oh my God, stop. So Jacob Marley, he tells him, Scrooge, look at me, bro. Like I died and I was just like you. And like, I'm fucked, homie. Like this is how I live my afterlife. It sucks. And you're gonna end up just like me because you suck just as bad. But guess what? I got you a chance to change, so you're gonna now be haunted by 3 more ghosts, and like you're gonna learn life lessons. And Scrooge, he just looks at Marley, he's like, I'd really rather not. Again, I'm quoting. It's just the best response. And Marley's just like, okay, first of all, I wasn't asking. And second of all, too fucking bad. I am doing you a solid here. How are you fucking with me on this? Marley, he leaves. He's like, fine, whatever. You know what? I did my part. I'm done. And Scrooge is like, okay, all right, slugger, I'm gonna put myself to bed. I've had enough excitement for today. So, boom, goes to sleep. All right, and that's like the end of like the first chapter of this, which was like 27 pages, so it was a fair amount of pages actually. But I'm gonna read about the first ghost that's gonna come haunt him, and I'll come back and I'll tell you guys more about what's happening. So, the ghosts of Christmas Past. Let's talk about them for a minute. So Scrooge, he went to bed, and he wakes up, and he's all confused because it's midnight, and he's like, okay, maybe I'm actually like sick and hallucinating. Do I have a fever? Like, was I making up Marley's ghost? But he wasn't making up Marley's ghost, because like an hour later, so these hands just open up his bed curtains, and he's like, blah, who are you? And he looks over the ghost, and seriously, it's Benjamin Button, okay? Because the ghost is described as an old man in a child's proportions. So the ghost of Christmas Past is like, Scrooge, hey, I'm here to haunt you. I'm gonna take you back in time through like a trauma dump of your past. Like, buckle up, buddy. This is gonna get rough. Because the whole goal of this thing is to make you have feelings, and you don't like feelings. So they get sucked into the past, right? Okay, so the first Christmas they go to, Scrooge, he's like a lonely, unpopular kid in a boarding school. He's just like, I don't know, he's like 10 or something. The only thing he has for company are books. And Scrooge sees himself as this little kid, and he feels bad for himself. He's like, oh, that little kid's lonely and sad and stuff. It's him, but he still has feelings for another person, even though it's still him. Baby steps, okay? But anyway, mission accomplished here. He has had some feelings. So move on. Next Christmas, we're gonna go visit Scrooge. He's like a teenager now. Guess who comes to see him? It's his little sister, and she comes and gets him because she's like, hey, guess what? Our dad, he finally stopped being like a fucking monster, and like he said that you could come home now. Because, like, I don't know, they never really go into that in the story, but it's, like, kind of insinuated that maybe the dad was a bit abusive or maybe had substance abuse issues. and he has since gotten sober from that, and now he's not a monster anymore. It's kind of alluded to, but never expressly said in the text. That's what I think was going on. But Scrooge, upon seeing that, he remembers being very excited to go home, and then he starts feeling bad for his sister because she was such a nice, kind lady. And unfortunately, she died very young, after having his nephew. So now Scrooge has had feelings. He feels bad. So boom, let's go to the next Christmas. Scrooge, right? He's a young man now. He's like in his 20s. And he's working for this guy named Fezziwig. And you know what? I think casting him as Fozzie Bear in the Muppets Christmas Carol is just perfect. But anyway, Fezziwig, right? He likes to party, okay? So he's throwing this big Christmas celebration, and everyone is having an awesome time. There's dancing and food and drinks and stuff. And you know what? Scrooge himself, he's having a good time at this party too. And Fezziwig, you know what? He was an awesome businessman. He was successful, and also he was nice to his employees, and Scrooge loved working there. So seeing all of that makes him kind of feel bad for being such a dick to his clerk all the time. So again, mission accomplished. He has had feelings. Gonna go to another Christmas. The last Christmas they go to, Scrooge, I don't know, he's 30 or something, and he's engaged to this really lovely woman, and her name is Belle. But she breaks up with him because he's obsessed with work and getting wealth, and he completely ignores her all the time. And she's like, you don't love me. You don't love me. So she has finally realized that he doesn't love her in the way that she deserves to be loved. So she's like, listen, this is obviously isn't for you. You go do what you want, and I'm gonna find someone else because I don't want to keep doing this anymore. And then Scrooge, he has feelings because now he's heartbroken all over again because he fucked up that relationship by being an asshole. It's his own fault. And then the ghost is like, yes, let's expand upon this. So he doubles down, and he brings the ghost over to a different Christmas past that didn't have anything to do with Scrooge. He's just like, oh yeah, want to see what happened to Belle? Yeah, she got married to this guy who's the fucking best to her, and they have money still, and they have a bunch of kids, and they're so happy. And guess what, Scrooge? You could have had all that, bruh, if you weren't such a money hungry asshole. So mission accomplished. I rubbed it in that you're an asshole. Scrooge is and then he kind of fades away from the past, and he's in his own bed, and he just falls right back asleep. All right, so that was the end of the Ghost of Christmas Past. Lots of Christmases. It was more Christmases than I remembered. Next up, Ghost of Christmas Present. So I'm gonna read that section, and I'll hop back in. Okay, you know what? I'm starting to get alcohol flush. I could feel my face getting very hot. So I'm gonna put my hair up. It's come time for that. Christmas Present. So Scrooge, he fell back asleep. He wakes up again, and it's the same time again, another midnight. So he's like, oh my gosh, how many days have I been sleeping? And he's in bed. He's like, all right, I'm ready for a ghost. If it opens up my curtains, I'm gonna punch it right in the face. He's gearing himself up. But the ghost doesn't come in. And he's like, that's weird. So he gets out of bed. He's like, where's this ghost? And then he's like, oh, wait, why is there lights on in that other room? He goes into that other room, and he finds the broiest ghost who's ever broed, all right? I wouldn't be surprised if this ghost had a beer bong. That's the vibe he gives off. He's lovable bro. But anyway, so this is the Ghost of Christmas Present. And he full on decorated. There's greenery and food. And it's nice and warm in there. He just set up shop. So Scrooge is like, okay, I'm gonna ignore all of this party atmosphere you created in my house without asking, because I get it. You're gonna take me places, and I'm gonna learn a lesson. So let's just get on with it. Bro Ghost is like, all right, bet, let's go. So he takes him, boom. The Scrooge and the ghost, they're just walking around town now, and it's the merry little streets of London, and it's Christmas, and everybody's doing nice stuff. And if the ghost and him, they pass two people who are kind of fighting, and the ghost has this staff, and he flicks like staff juice on them. And apparently he's like the Christmas spirit because like they just start feeling better and then they like make up. So basically he's handing out Christmas shots. The broiest ghost, am I right? So next stop is Bob Cratchit's house, and that is Scrooge's clerk. So they get there, they like I don't know, like phase through the walls, so now they're in this house. And like Ghost of Christmas Present is like, ooh, these people are great. I'm giving them extra Christmas juice. So he's like flicking his little juices around. So the Cratchits are like, they're like a working class family, mom and dad, and they have like a bunch of children, but they all still make time to come together like on Christmas. They're gonna do a whole thing. Like maybe they don't have a ton of money for like a feast of food, but like they have enough to everybody can like eat and they're all happy. But anyway, they're all waiting for their dad to get home. So Bob Cratchit, he like comes home finally. He is carrying the tiniest Cratchit child, Tiny Tim. All right, Tiny Tim. Let's talk about Tiny Tim for like a minute, okay? Because Tiny Tim is like one of the most sympathetic characters to ever exist. He is full of sunshine and rainbows and optimism, even though he has a physical impairment where he has to use crutches to walk. Charles Dickens, he knew what he was fucking doing here. He's like, ooh, I'm about to like elicit reader tears and I want to drink them. Everybody fucking loves Tiny Tim. You know what? Even Ebenezer Scrooge, like his heart goes 3 sizes too big because he sees Tiny Tim. And he's like, oh, hey, ghost, Tiny Tim is like sickly. Is he gonna get better? And the ghost is like, nope, it's his last Christmas. And Scrooge and all of the readers are going, what? You can't kill Tiny Tim. Like, we're all like already too invested in this character. And like the Ghost of Christmas Present is like, oh, Scrooge, I didn't realize you cared because, you know, these are poor people and you said they should all just go die anyways. And you know what, Scrooge? You know why people are poor? It's because people like you are hoarding all the wealth and there's not enough to go around. But you know, what do I know? I'm just a ghost, and also Bernie Sanders. So he's just like laying into Scrooge. And I'm like, yeah, someone needs to lay into this guy sometimes. But anyway, back to the Cratchits. They're all sitting down to dinner. They're eating like roasted chestnuts and they're having little drinks. They're having a good time. And you know what, Bob? He even like gives a toast. He's like, to Scrooge, you know, it's his pay that made this meal happen. Like if I wasn't employed, we'd be out in the streets. And all of the family are like, you're right, but we don't really want to toast this guy because he's the worst. Like he can go suck a butt for all we care. But you know what? Fine. It's Christmas. We'll just toast for him. And Scrooge is like feeling a lot of feelings right now. So it's time. Let's get you some more visions so you can learn more lessons. So the ghost takes Scrooge. They walk throughout the city. They see all kinds of people on their trails, like people who are like kind of maybe lonely or maybe down and out that you wouldn't think are having Merry Christmases, but they're still finding a way to have a Merry Christmas. And Scrooge is just a fuck up who can't even like light a candle for Christmas. But anyway, last stop. The ghost is Scrooge. They end up at his nephew Fred's house. And everybody is there having like an amazing time because Fred gives Golden Retriever energy. Like, oh my gosh, Fred and Christmas Present, like they would be besties. They had this great dinner. They're playing games. They're laughing. They're having drinks. And Fred starts talking about his uncle. And he's like, you know what? I feel sorry for him because he's made his life into this cold, emotionless husk of an existence. And I'm going to keep trying every year. I'm always going to ask him over for Christmas because who knows, maybe someday he'll like change his mind and like he'll let in some happiness. Scrooge is like kind of really touched by this, honestly. He's like, oh my gosh, I thought my nephew was just trying to annoy me, but he actually like wants me to be happy. I don't know how to process these feelings. So again, mission accomplished. Feelings have been had. So more to see. Let's go look at some other people on Christmas. And the last thing the Ghost of Christmas Present shows him are like some like little street orphan children, some little Oliver Twists, if you will. And like they're cold and they're hungry and they're alone. And Scrooge is like, oh no, the children. Oh, they shouldn't be cold and alone and hungry. Like, can't we do anything for them? Can you give them some Christmas juice from your stick? The ghost is like, oh, well, you know, we could just put them in prison or a workhouse because that's what you said the poor should go to. Huh, Scrooge? You dick? Like, he just really rubs it in. Like, he's so bro-y and, like, fun, but, like, low-key, he fucking hates Scrooge. His loathing of this guy is barely contained at all times. But anyway, that's all they could do this evening because it's midnight. Time is up. And like the ghost just fades away and enter the last ghost that's going to be haunting this guy. So, woo! I'm going to read about the last ghost. And I will come back. I have slowed down on drinking because this is about to get sloppy. Okay, so the last ghost is the ghost of Christmas yet to come. But I'm just going to say Christmas future. It's easier. So Ghost of Christmas future. He's just like a big dark robe. You can't see anything inside of it. And then like one hand. And he doesn't talk. He just points at stuff. So he's kind of like Thing from the Addams Family. But he's just hand that points. Anyway, so this ghost, he's just silently leading Scrooge about the city. And like he keeps seeing like a bunch of people he knows from like business, and everyone he sees is like talking about this guy. This guy just died, and like none of them particularly really care that he's dead. They're just acknowledging it, and they're like, you know what, no one's gonna show up at that funeral, and I feel like a little bit bad about it. So like if they have like a nice lunch spread, like I'll go. Basically, like they're gonna go for free food. And that's it. But I mean, at least there's that. And Scrooge is really confused because he doesn't know what's going on. He's like, hey, aren't you supposed to be like Christmas future? Like Jacob Marley is already dead. And the spirit just keeps like silently leading him around. They get to like the seedier part of town. So these three people come into the pawn shop and they have a bunch of stuff they stole from like the dead guy's house. And since this guy was just so fucking rotten to everybody, like no one was there when he died. Like no one is there now to like take care of his things. So like the house is just sitting there. And so they're like, well, what's a dead guy going to do with drapes? You know, I'm going to help myself. So anyways, they're going there to like sell this guy's stuff. They like picked off his corpse. I don't know. They're like looting this guy's house. The Scrooge is still really confused. He's like, hey, I don't remember people stealing from Jacob Marley's house. Like, that's my house. What's going on? Like, he hasn't pieced this together yet. So the ghost is like, oh, I'm just going to silently lead you somewhere else. Then he leads him to like this bedroom, right? And like the bed curtains are gone, and it's just like there's a lump on a bed that's covered by a sheet. And Scrooge is like, that is the dead guy. And like I didn't want to see the dead guy. I just want to know what was going on. And like I am not gonna go look at this dead guy. So like I don't know. Show me something else, ghost. Like can you show me like one person who cared about this guy at all? But the ghost is like. There's no one that cared about this guy. Like, there's zero people. Like, let's go to, like, the closest we can get about someone caring. So they go back over to Bob Cratchit's house. And you know what? The Ghost of Christmas Present already said that was going to be Tiny Tim's last Christmas. So Tiny Tim has died. And, like, the family is in mourning. And I sat there just crying because why would you do this to us, Charles Dickens? I mean, you know, some people kill off characters people like all the time. But you don't kill Tiny Tim. Who hurt you? So Scrooge, like all of us, starts crying because Tiny Tim is gone. And he's like, I'm sad. Ghost, you've got to show me something else. You are a real fucking bummer, dude. You know what? I've had it. Just show me the dead guy. Okay, fine. We'll go back there. It's better than this. So the ghost is like, all right, bet, let's go. So they start walking through town again. And Scrooge, he gets like near his house and like his office and stuff. He's like, oh, what? I want to go see my future self and see what I'm doing. So like he goes and looks in the window of like his office and he's like, huh, that's weird. Like it's still an office, but like it has different furniture and like there's different people in there, and he's like, what are they doing there? But like the ghost is like, come on, we still got shit to see. So the ghost, he just keeps walking, and then they get to the graveyard, right? And the ghost, he just points to a grave, because that's what he does. He points. And Scrooge is like, oh no. He looks at the grave, and it's his grave. Bum, 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 bum. Like, it's the big dramatic moment. I wish there was lightning. There needed to be. If there isn't, put it in. And then he starts getting mad at the ghost, because he's like, really? Really, ghost? You all put me through this. You kidnapped me over and over again. It made me like look at shit that made me sad and feel things. And then like there's just nothing I can do to make it better. I'm just gonna like die and no one's gonna care, and I don't have an opportunity to fix things. Like, why are you being such a dick? Like, what was the point of this? And so he goes to like grab at the ghost, because now he's pissed off, and like the ghost just kind of fades away, and like it turns into his bedpost in Scrooge's bedroom. So now he's just holding his bedpost. And then that's the end of the ghost. But there's one chapter left of this, and I saved it. I'm gonna read that, and then we're going to reconvene for final thoughts. So Scrooge is back in his bed where all this started. And guess what? Not dead. Still alive. So, hey, positives. It's morning time, like the sun is coming up. And he's like, oh my goodness, I can make amends still, because I'm not dead yet. I can go do like nice things and not be so shitty. Like, I'm happy. I'm excited about not being a bad person. So like he quickly like gets dressed, because you know he's not going to go out in his like his nightgown. So he like boom throws open the windows. He's like, hey kid, hey you down there, what day is this? But mind you, he's really manic, and he's been like muttering about ghosts. So the little boy is like, it's Christmas? Like, are you okay? He's just really confused by this. But Scrooge is like, oh my gosh, great, it's Christmas. You know that shop on the corner? Like, do they still have that like enormous goose for sale? And the boy's like, yeah, they got that goose for sale. It's enormous. No one's gonna buy that. And Scrooge is like, hey, go tell the guy I wanna buy that goose and bring it here. And if you do it, I'll give you a shilling. And then if you do it really fast, I'll give you a half crown, which is like a lot of money for a kid. So the kid's like, all right, bro, I'll do it. So the kid just goes over to the shop. And like, here's a part that like I always wondered about in the story, because they don't go into it. Scrooge never gives the kid any money to buy said goose. He just says, go get the goose. And like, why would the shopkeeper believe this strange child who just rolled in off the street saying, hey, Ebenezer Scrooge wanted to buy your goose and he sent me? Why would he believe any of it? But anyway, it's Christmas, okay? So it works out. The shopkeeper comes over with the goose, and he's like, okay, great. Send it to Bob Cratchit's house. And he gives him the address, and he's like, okay, good. I can do Christmas things. I'm excited. And so Scrooge, he like leaves his house. He's just like going around town, the happiest man you've ever met in your whole life. He's saying hello. He's saying
Merry Christmas.
He's just having a ball. And people are like, all right, Scrooge. Like, people are like being nice back to him. He's like, oh wow, I didn't know I could just be nice and people would be nice to me. Like, this is a new thing. And he's like, okay, gotta make amends with everybody that I fucked over recently, at least. So he goes over the charity guy, the guy who said like, oh, poor people should just go die. And he's like, hey, charity guy, I'm sorry, I was an asshole. So like, hey, come see me tomorrow. I am going to give you an enormous donation, because frankly, it's years coming. And the guy's like, okay. Like, again, he just believes him, even though this man is having a complete manic episode. But like, whatever. He's like, fine, I'll come see you tomorrow. We're all good. So the last stop on Scrooge's walkabout is his nephew's house. So Scrooge gets there, and he's like pacing back and forth outside of it. He's like, he's got to work up the courage to knock, because he's been a dick to his nephew since always. So he's like, all right. He like psychs himself up, knocks on the door, and he gets let inside, and he's like, nephew, I'm here for Christmas dinner. And the nephew's like, what? Like, they're all like shocked, because like all of a sudden Ebenezer Scrooge is in my house and he's nice. What is going on? Whatever. I'm not gonna look a gift horse in the mouth. So like they set him up an extra place at the table. They have like this big dinner with him, and they play games, and it's basically the same vision he had from the day before, except like now Scrooge is like participating, and he's part of the good day. So like, good for him, I guess. Like, even like an asshole gets to have a nice day every once in a while. So that's Christmas. It's over. Christmas is done. But the next day, he's got to go back to work, and Bob Cratchit is going to come back to work. So he's like, ooh, I'm going to get there early. I'm going to get there so early, so I'm there when he walks in, and I'm going to surprise this guy. Like, he is like so excited about this. So Bob rolls up. He happens to be a little late. The one day that Bob Cratchit is a little bit late for work. And Scrooge, he starts pretending to be mad about it. It's like, you're 18 minutes late, Bob Cratchit. Just being like really crotchety and like really leaning into it like more than he usually would. And Bob is really freaked out. He's like, oh my gosh, do I need witnesses? Am I about to be murdered? He's worried for a hot second. And then Scrooge is like, just kidding. I'm going to raise your salary, bud. Also, I'm going to help you with financial planning because like you need to make sure your family's well cared for. And I understand money. So get over here, you so-and-so. And then that's it for that Christmas. And then like the story kind of just fades out with like Scrooge being a changed man and like all the Christmases after and every day after he's been a better person. And like he's like inserted himself in kind of Bob Cratchit's family. He helps them a lot. And like, you know what else, everybody? Most importantly, Tiny Tim doesn't die in the end, okay? That was a fake out and he's not dead. Thank you. Thank you, Charles Dickens. Why did you jerk us around? Like, just don't kill Tiny Tim. Anyway, Tiny Tim isn't dead. Hurrah. That's the end. That was A Christmas Carol, everybody. So you know what? I enjoy the source material. Like, there's so many adaptations of this. Personally, I think The Muppet Christmas Carol is a true gem, and so is the original source material. I think I said at the beginning of this that it's actually really funny. Like, it's way more jokes in here than you're expecting to be. You're expecting like a fairy tale kind of a parable thing, but like, no, it's funny. Like, Charles Dickens is like cracking jokes with this whole book. And also, it gives the audience what they want. They want that saccharine ending. They want Scrooge to be a good person. They want Tiny Tim not to die. So like, you subverted expectations by having this be the main character of your book. And then you still gave us what we wanted in the end. So overall, this is fucking masterful storytelling. On that note, let me know in the comments down below, what's one of your favorite Christmas stories? It could be anything, it could be modern, it could be classical, what have you. What's one of your favorite Christmas reads? Comments down below. If you like this video, make sure you give it a like. If you want to see more videos, make sure you subscribe. And if you want cool exclusive content, including early access to videos or a book club, you can consider becoming a channel member or a patron. Links for that are in the description down below. And on that note, I'll see you guys soon. Goodbye. Happy holidays.